Okay, testing 1 2 1 2. This is my warm welcome holiday speech. But I just wanted to express my gratitude towards the past year, all the listeners and viewers on This Guy Edits, TGE. I very much appreciate that relationship between myself as sort of a storyteller and having the opportunity to find an audience, connect with it, and learning and hearing what you think. Some of the best stuff that's been created in the past year on the channel as well as on the podcast is because of listener suggestions, viewers who have an idea, who love some of the stuff we're doing here and say, hey, why don't you do it with this film? Or how about you talk about that? And that's, for me, one of the key reasons why I get a kick out of doing this. So, happy holidays. I wish you a great new year, much success. Remember not to just listen and watch stuff, but to find ways to take it and put it into action. Whenever you're listening to something or watching something, if there's this one thing that you can actually apply to your own work, then you're growing. And I wish you much success with that. Now back to the podcast.
Holiday episode.
Hello, Tyler. How are you?
I'm good, Sven. How are you doing? Welcome to the This Guy Edits podcast, right?
TG.
Is that where we are?
Yes, we're here. So glad.
What do we do?
Oh my God, I have no idea. I mean, we're analyzing scenes and looking at some stuff while you're listening to us looking at some stuff that is really, really insightful and hopefully is going to inspire you. That's what we're doing.
And if you enjoy what you're hearing on the show, let a friend know. We appreciate the word being spread, the listens are growing, and subscribe on whatever app you're listening to the podcast on. It's much appreciated, and we hope you're having a wonderful holiday season as we're comparing the style of comedy of two similar but entirely dissimilar holiday movies the next 2 weeks. Or we should explain this is a two-parter, right, Sven?
Yes, it is, because we want to take some time off.
But also because of we're going to be looking at much more clips this episode, so more clips than we usually do this episode, comparing between two movies, so it's going to spread out and be a little longer, and we'll give it a holiday theme and break it up over 2 episodes.
Nice. And I think the overarching premise is that we want to find out whether comedy has changed over the years or over the decades, and whether the storytelling worked better in the past or is working better now, and
whether special effects are helping it or not. Hey, Sven, are you working on anything over the holidays?
I just started a new feature, thanks for asking, and it's very exciting in the sense that it's the first time for me that I'm cutting actually a film that is in German, was shot in Germany, directed by a German director, so I'm going back home. Not figuratively, literally, no, the other way around.
Wait.
I'm here, I'm staying in LA, I'm cutting it here. I met the director at South by Southwest earlier this year. We started meeting a couple of times over the months, and I gave him some thoughts on the script I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I did. And he shot it, and just last week he flew back here, showed me an assembly cut of the film, and I told him what I thought about it. And we decided we're going to move ahead, and I'm going to do a take on the film. And it's a cool project, actually. It's really nice. It's kind of a period piece. It's a thriller. It has a female lead killer. So there's a lot of things that I haven't really done before, and I'm really excited about.
Super cool. And are we going to get to see videos from this on your YouTube channel?
I think so. I spoke to the director about it, and he loved the idea, and is open to me showing stuff cutting. So I'm going back to not only home, but to the roots of the channel, because that's how it started originally, is that I was cutting a feature and was going through some scenes. So I'll be doing some of that on the channel. I'll be doing more of that on Patreon, actually.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing it. And if you like what you're hearing here, if you have thoughts on the podcast, we've gotten a lot of great, interesting comments. We enjoy hearing the feedback. I saw one really good point on the revenge clip that you posted to YouTube about the orientation of the man chasing the woman with the gun and us not knowing where she was in the scene or where they were, what the distance was between them. Did you see that one?
I kind of vaguely remember. What was the point?
The point was that we talked about a lot of different reasons it kind of worked and didn't work, and what the commenter pointed out was that the character has no idea where he is because she's just woken up from the screen going black, being shot in the ear. So it helped the scene and the audience not knowing how far he was away either. She had her back to him and had the same information we do, and it's always good to find ways to know what character you're following and to be able to put the audience in their shoes. There's a lot of great examples of that. So I thought that was a really good point, and it especially stood out because it got a reaction from Dennis, our glorious editor for the videos that go onto YouTube, who we're eternally grateful to, who said great point. So I thought I would second it.
Nice. I noticed that there was a very passionate discussion about the weapon and whether this is a realistic representation of how this weapon is being used.
I have a question. I have a question about this. I have a question before you get into this, because there were two versions of the video that went up. Right? So what happened there?
I uploaded the video, and for some reason I was in a 4K timeline, and I uploaded it as an SD video because the settings were wrong, and then all the framing was off and low resolution. So Dennis was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, this will be an interesting experiment. Let's re-upload the HD version and see what that does to the algorithm."
So, but I felt like a lot of those comments got lost because of that.
Yeah, that video is still alive, the SD one.
Yeah.
So I guess I can put it in the playlist of the podcast so you can see both versions and read the comments. But the conversation just went over from one video to the next. I thought same people had the same problems.
And what was the problem?
I can't really expertly describe whether this is the right use of weapon or whether this weapon would actually have a sight or something. I just noticed it sounded like this might be a shotgun, and you cannot hit somebody from that distance with a shotgun. Maybe that's what's going on. But there was also somebody there, and I don't know if that person was an expert, but he was kind of making fun of everybody that criticized this, saying that they don't have any idea of what kind of rifle this was. So I guess the bigger question really is for filmmakers. First of all, should you do your research? Does the audience care? And I know what James Cameron would say. He would say, yeah, absolutely. You got to make sure that every detail needs to be precise, because there is always going to be a contingency of people that are going to notice if something is not real or could be happening that way.
Yeah, and the thing that's funny with that film is that we made it very clear that there had been a lot. It's a film that has a lot of those types of errors. Let's call them continuity errors or, separation from reality errors. But I also think that's part of the fun of the movie is detaching itself from that. And we, in the podcast, talked about the value of, in particularly that film, of being able to not get hung up on that kind of stuff. And it's clearly a revenge fantasy film. So it just kind of begs that question, because a lot of people are very, very, very dismissive of that movie. I feel like it's gotten the strongest comments we've seen so far in terms of like, this movie sucks. Like I didn't even see that for Peter Rabbit, right? Peter Rabbit's whatever. It's ultimately like a really good movie for what it is, but the scene we looked at certainly sucked, and that's why we were looking at it. But this scene, it's funny because there's such a detachment from reality throughout the movie. So maybe it was on the filmmaker to find a way to make that more clear. I don't feel like when people watch early Sam Raimi movies or Peter Jackson's early movies that they have those comments and reactions. So there's something about it maybe that was straddling a line that just didn't, just irked people. And yet at the same time, it was completely obeying all the stuff you talked about in terms of the rules of continuity and the rules of screen direction and stuff were very well respected to, give a really enhanced experience of the film. So it's an interesting one.
Like I said in the podcast, not in the video, but in the podcast I said I have no issues with the craft of the film. I do have some issues with how reality is being dealt with, and I think you have a different view on this. But for some reason, I feel like sometimes you can walk the line where it works if it's something is not real and we're trying to make it more of a fantasy or it's heightened.
Right.
Here,
like
I always
bad taste or something like that.
Yeah, here I always felt like it's supposed to be real, and then it's breaking its own rules in a way. So when you brought up, oh, this is more of a nightmare, she might not even be alive, is what you were implying throughout this whole film. Like this is just going on in her head. For me, that I took everything for what it is, and I was always like, well, that wouldn't happen. And so, I mean, I could still enjoy the movie, but every once in a while I had the experience like I've been just thrown off by the filmmaker. And maybe that's why it's good to have a film that takes a stand, right? That stands for something.
Right.
And this certainly does. And it's good because if you don't make a film that stands for something, nobody can stand with you. If you make everything right, it could just be the failure of the film. That it's just average. It's just in the middle of the road. So, I don't know. I think overall it's probably a success.
Well, sure, but there's something also about, this could be just like an excuse for people to fall back on, but there is something, and I almost wasn't really necessarily looking at it that she was dead, but maybe it's a resurrection, so then you're in that world. But the idea of one starting a conversation can be good sometimes for art. But on that same token, it's funny that a movie like that, because the things that are wrong are pretty specific and clear, and yet when you're watching a Transformers movie, it's fine. Although, how much more preposterous can you get if you really took that and broke it apart? So it's almost like, it's weird because the genre of Transformers, people know that they can dismiss something going into it, but a movie like Revenge gets held to a certain accountability over really, really specific things is what was weird too. Like the type of engine sound and where the headphones were in the scene and stuff like that. And hey, the eagle's backwards when she uses a hot can to seal her mortal wound, not the fact that she uses a hot can to seal her mortal wound, which is interesting. But more importantly, it ties into what we're talking about today, which ties back to your YouTube video, right, with Dr. Is it Karen Perlman?
Yes.
But I think that's what we're talking about in terms of this comedy today. Once you have special computer effects available, where you can go with it.
Yeah, I think it has to do with vulnerability. If a character needs to be vulnerable, and oftentimes in films like Guardian of the Galaxy or some other superhero movies, we don't have that option because whatever wounds are being inflicted on them, it's not stopping them at all. It's not phasing them. That's sort of the broad stroke of it. And so then these films make up for that vulnerability with comedy. Like everybody's witty. Everything, there's a comment on something going on. I feel like I'm loving a film like Revenge a lot more because the character is vulnerable and she's not trying to be witty. For the most part, I can't think of a single line where she's like dismissively making a commentary about something.
Right.
She's suffering through this. She's trying to survive. So I can buy into that. I'd much rather have a character that is vulnerable and is trying to move on, trying to survive.
Right. And what's that YouTube video called?
Why superhero movies are spectacular and boring.
But some of that I feel like goes into what we're talking about in terms of the degree to which you're able to detach yourself from reality with special effects. And you talk about seeing, someone get a window slammed on their hand is going to make the audience feel that pain. And I feel like for decades and decades, cartoons would handle that in a very certain way, and human beings would handle it in a certain way because you would have these amazing performers like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin that could do these amazing stunts that were very funny, and yet you would see the pain and stuff like that. And then now, kind of as technology has evolved, it's become a thing to exaggerate that with special effects. And I remember first kind of starting to see that, and I'm sure this isn't the first time. You can let us know the first movie you saw this in. But in the Scary Movie franchise, do you remember those movies, Sven? They were like spoofs of Scream and stuff.
Yes.
Made by the Wayans brothers, directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans, and I remember just seeing like really like cheap, computer effects used to like have a character's tongue getting pulled out of their mouth when it was frozen to something, and just really ridiculous things. And then, actors like Jim Carrey would never need that. They could kind of do stunts or at least sell them. Even in The Mask, like his physical abilities would kind of help sell that computer stuff a lot more. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of seemed like in movies, like I remember the trailer for Neighbors, that Seth Rogen movie where he's playing a neighbor. It just seemed like these insane computer effects where you see characters getting blown by airbags into the ceiling of their office in ways that are completely, entirely impossible. And that's obviously become a thing, and it's used more and more in these big comedies, and absolutely in the Daddy's Home movies. I mean, that was like a huge selling point of those movies. And so then to see Daddy's Home, the sequel, the Christmas-based one we're going to talk about, compared to National Lampoon's Vacation with Chevy Chase, Christmas Vacation, where they have identical scenes, and yet they're entirely reliant on special effects, although there is some contrast in that we're going to talk about. But Chevy Chase was obviously one of the few comedic performers that understood or was able to do falls and actually do stunts himself. So it's interesting to see the contrast between the two, and that's pretty much what we're going to be looking at today. And next week, over your holiday break, it's kind of like a good preface and way to tie that all in and look back at that video as fans to really kind of understand this concept.
Nice. So we should really look at the scenes and be specific about some of the things that we notice in terms of the pacing and the use of effects in comedy, physical comedy. And what we usually do here is we start up a scene and we pick a scene that is available on YouTube. We'll include the link in the description of the podcast so you can watch along with us. We will make an attempt to describe what's going on in the scene. I always have this idea that it's like War of the Worlds, kind of like this audio radio program where you really get wrapped up in the scene even though you can't see anything. And then we go back and analyze it afterwards. So that's what we're doing. And how do we start off? Do we show Christmas Vacation first, or
I think what we need to make clear over this holiday two-hander is we're coming at you a little differently, because we actually have at least two different clips from the different films that we're going to be looking at and analyzing. So we'll be very specific talking about what's happening, but I think we're much more, instead of really specifically looking at these as legendary scenes that we're watching and breaking down the editing of beat by beat like we usually do, we're going to be talking kind of more about core concepts. So it's the holidays. You can gather your, your popcorn, or what do people eat over the holidays then? Caramel corn with cheese corn. Yeah. You ever get that? Gather around with that, and you can click around, watch a few different YouTube clips, or just listen to us explain it. And we're going to jump around between these things over this episode and the next. So brace yourselves.
Nice. Well, you'll be the driver. What's the first scene we're seeing?
Well, we should talk about these two films. And also, it's funny that we would dare go back to Christmas Vacation. And we looked around for like a while for a really good, at least I think we were both doing it, for like a really good Christmas scene to look at, or a holiday scene. And we would kind of find them, and it was all kind of like, it's more the concepts behind them were more interesting than the actual execution of anything.
Right.
I feel like. And then ended up on Christmas Vacation, which is funny because I would say our worst episode is the vacation episode.
That's right. We own it. We're doubling down.
So we doubled down there. We said, well, what if we compare it to Daddy's Home 2? Because it has very similar scenes here. So do you want to set up Christmas Vacation, Sven? I feel like you're the vacation guy.
Okay, I'll do the vacation guy. So this is the third installment in the vacation. How many were there? It's not a trilogy, is it? There's a biggest vacation.
Going.
It keeps going. So this is number 3. It was shot or released in 1989, directed by Jeremiah S. Chekik. It is the third installment in the National Lampoon's Vacation film series and was written by John Hughes, based on a short story in National Lampoon magazine. There's a great documentary about that magazine, actually. It's quite fun. Film stars Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, and Randy Quaid, with Juliette Lewis as one of the Griswold children. So it's another change, isn't it? And Since its release in 1989, Christmas Vacation has often been labeled as a modern Christmas classic. It is widely regarded as the best sequel of the Vacation series and the only sequel that have spawned its own directed sequel. A 2003 made-for-TV release entitled National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation 2, Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure. I don't think I've seen that.
I'm going to. I promise I'm going to watch it this holiday and report back.
There's been 6 home video releases, VHS and Laserdisc in the 90s, a bare bones DVD in 97, and a special edition DVD in 2003. And a Blu-ray edition was first released in 2006. In 2009, the film was released as an Ultimate Collector's Edition.
And the next version will hopefully have this episode of the podcast on it.
Wait, there's more. There's a Steelbook Blu-ray that was released in 2015. Can't wait for
Beautiful.
the 2019 re-release of the film.
Well, that's, yeah. I was thinking about that with holiday movies, but maybe we'll get into that in a minute. So, awesome. And then we're also going to be contrasting that movie to Daddy's Home, which I'm not looking at a Wikipedia of or anything like that for various reasons. Okay. Well, I happen to have seen both Daddy's Home films, mostly out of curiosity for what's happening with this type of comedy. And it stars Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. The comedy duo has returned and reunited for another movie. Sorry, I fell asleep for a second. Ferrell and Wahlberg team up again. Someone that's not Adam McKay made the film. And it had the funny thing when I was watching the first Daddy's Home and why I'm kind of fascinated by these particular films is because it starts, and especially for a Will Ferrell movie, it's very grounded. It has a voiceover, and it's about a voiceover that's solid. It's pretty, I would say the first 10 minutes are like have the promise of being a really great movie for what it is. And then there's this voiceover. It's about things that are, important emotional issues. And that's what's great about the vacation films and why, Christmas Vacation works so well is because this stuff's really important to Clark Griswold, that these things going well for him and keeping his family together. So there's like these deep undercurrents to it. And Daddy's Home had the same thing because it's about Will Ferrell becoming a stepdad to this family and then the competition of meeting the real dad. And it means so much to him to be a father, and that's set up so well in the first one with voiceover and other stuff. And then suddenly there's just these ridiculous special effects comedy scenes that come in and weren't in the script. That this is just one of those cases, and this would happen a lot with the Sandler movies too, where people would write these decent scripts and then it's like, hey, your script got bought. Okay, cool. Who bought it? Like Sandler's company. And it's like, oh God. And then they would just go in and like pump them full of jokes. And there were a lot of like very well respected scripts, like the script for 50 First Dates that was the Sandler Drew Barrymore movie, which is a good comedy, but it was definitely like a darker, it was maybe Spike Jonze-ish type movie or something like that. And then, Sandler got his hands on it and we're like, well, we got to do the Sandler jokes. So it's full of those things. And then you can just see how the same thing's happening here with Daddy's Home. And it does bring up the point of the special effects comedy. I don't know if there's any statistics or facts you want to add to the Daddy's Home franchise, Sven.
I can, but before we do that, did I just sort of hear that you didn't like 50 First Dates? Is that what you're implying?
No, I think it's great. No, I like 50 First Dates. But I'm saying that...
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic film and actually a real nice balance between a comedy and a drama.
Yeah. But that original script was much, much darker. Okay. And then there's a very certain style to the Sandler comedy, and that's an example of that really working, that combination. But that's what happens a lot is like decent scripts get bought, and then it's like, all right, well, let's turn it into a joke mill. And you start adding this really over-the-top, ridiculous special effects comedy now, and that's how we end up with Daddy's Home. I mean, if that makes sense, I don't know.
Well, what can I say about it? It has a Rotten Tomato score of 19%. It has an IMDb score of 3.9. It made $180 million worldwide on a $70 million budget. I don't think there's going to be a third one. I don't know. Have you heard anything? Are they working on it?
Are you talking about part 2?
Yeah, I'm talking about part 2.
Okay. So I mean, they set it up for a third one at the end, I feel like.
They did. Okay, I haven't seen the film. But I think the numbers don't seem to make sense. So that's about it. It was shot in March 2017 released by Paramount Pictures in November, and it received generally negative reviews from critics.
And how much time was there between the first one and second one?
Okay, so this was 2017. The first one was 2015, so 2 years.
Okay, and they made a point of bringing in Mel Gibson as the father and John Lithgow as the father
Mm-hmm.
to see what that would be like. And how much money did the first one make?
Not a lot more, I think. It was 150 domestic and 92 foreign.
Interesting. Yeah, it's weird the movies that get a sequel and the ones that don't. The one thing about Daddy's Home is it definitely ended with the setup for a sequel with John Cena showing up as the stepdad of Wahlberg's kid, something like that. So I guess that's the trick. If you want a franchise, just have a really blatant call for a franchise at the end of your movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very sitcom-ish, the setup, so it lends itself to having stuff like that going on. All right, well, we should look at one of these clips real quick. Which one? Christmas Vacation?
Well, that would be the obvious choice. Why don't we do the non-obvious choice and go right to Daddy's Home?
So then we can make, because I can't make the point. Let's look at
okay, never mind then.
Let's look at Christmas Vacation. Let's look at Chevy Chase falling off the roof and talk about that for a moment. And the difference again between these two things is the scene in Daddy's Home is Will Ferrell sucking Christmas lights into a snowblower, and crazy special effects that happen because of that. And this one is Chevy Chase. It's the famous scene from Christmas Vacation where he's just been putting these lights on this house throughout the whole thing. Just one of the runners that we have going on. You set up that his neighbors are a-holes, and we put a lot of time into setting up kind of the danger of this stuff, where things in movies like Daddy's Home, it just happens. They're actually taking the time to set these jokes up. So the first Christmas Vacation we're going to look at is earlier in the film. He's grabbing his bag. He's grabbing the lights. So let's take a look at it in 3, 2, 1, click.
We're going to have the best looking house in town, Russ.
All right, so they're excited, and all this is set up. We're getting all the lights laid out, seeing how important it is to him.
Out in the cold, and I'm committed to decorating the house. I'm going to do it right.
Certainly taking their time. There's a dolly shot, nice and smooth.
Be proud of, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's really cool that we're seeing that he's trying. It's just the comedy of it's about something else, where he's trying to form a bond with his son, form a connection, impress him. Really wants to have the best house in the neighborhood. So all this stuff's being set up. So when it starts to go wrong, it's going to mean a lot more. And then we have the ridiculous
I'll get the other box.
amount, like light knot going on. And all this is just set up. And more, we have the neighbors coming out. They're complete a-holes. I don't quite remember if this is the first time we see them in the movie.
I hope he falls and breaks his neck.
I'm sure he'll fall, but I don't think we're lucky enough to have him break his neck.
And then they set that thing perfectly of like him breaking his neck, so those stakes are set up. And this, I think, is just so important, him climbing up this ladder, because this is just a great shot that just doesn't end. Like, the degree they went to did not have us see the top of the ladder before he starts climbing up it, hiding with the train and stuff is great, because then when he starts going, it's like, oh, this isn't going to end. He's way, way up there, and then boom, it's already going wrong with the pratfall comedy that Chevy Chase can do so well.
A couple of things I love at the end, how he just looks left and right, which is like so what somebody does who just took a fall, and just making sure if anybody like actually noticed it, and you need to like make a remark about it or to play it off or so.
Yeah.
So I thought it was real nice.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that does just more kind of amplify that thing of like, this is about his pride, right? And about his relationship with his son. He doesn't want to look like an idiot. So just those little things add so much to the comedy of this. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, go ahead, start it up.
Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, click, whatever. Sorry. So he's stapling the lights, and again, it's much later in the day. This is parallel action. We've seen other stuff going on during the day, and
it's not a good
Yeah,
idea
just
to
setting-
staple your lights onto the roof, by the way.
right, yeah, it's all. He's clearly not the best. And then the other thing that's fun about this is you talk about the observer in a scene. The straight guy in this is always the neighbors, so this scene's really just about kind of torturing them. And how whatever ridiculous stuff happens.
Oh, nice. Oh,
It's just, And then that fall too. I guess that's the point that I'm making with this. When you look at this stuff, like it's very, very much within the realm of plausibility.
Yeah.
I mean, he really did all this stuff, or a stunt person, and you could really see a guy just kind of being the stupid and actually stapling the light. And then you could really believe that particular chunk of ice would shoot through the window. You don't need it bouncing off of, 4 stop signs and like hitting a dog as would probably happen now, just to do that amplification.
I thought this is a perfectly paced scene. Nice setup. Got some music to it to get going with us. I mean, I have my thoughts about when you see the staplers, like, is that a good idea to put holes in your roof, basically? That's my first, that doesn't seem a good idea. Then he slides over. I love this stunt where he hangs onto the gutter. That's right. Nicely done, how he spins over. That's not him, right? That's a stuntman right there. And
who knows?
Yeah, we should definitely what's happening. So he's holding on to it, and then it breaks off on the one side, which triggers this ice that's frozen inside the gutter to slide out and then torpedo towards the neighbor's window and just go through the window and hits... What is that? What is it hitting there?
It's like their speaker system or some amazing thing.
It's like a Bose speaker system, yeah, probably.
Right.
And then he finally falls. So, yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, it's great choreography. It's nicely edited. The unfolding of that scene, that's happening through the editing.
Especially at 40, if we look at just the sound effect of this ice.
Yeah.
Or sorry, at 32. It's just a really funny sound for this to have. Like the sound a giant thing of ice would make. And it's a good example of kind of using the sound design to make things funny. And you see that in comedy all the time.
Yeah. And it's clean. I feel like and we're going to see that in the other scene. And I remember when I saw it there, I was just overwhelmed. Like, stuff was just thrown at me. I couldn't really process anything. And here I can process it, which is nice.
Yeah, and I would say that as well, the difference between the two scenes we're going to look at. There's something about the concepts of these things that makes them so classic. It's like a comedian telling a really good joke. And that goes on through all the vacation movies. Like, we talk about the idea of knocking Stonehenge over. That's just a really funny concept. So then you get to see this idiot do it, and just this idea of this guy just putting way too many lights on his house and falling off of it and getting tangled up in the cords and draining the neighborhood's electricity is just funny. And we're going to see that with the sled moment we're going to look at a little bit later as well. Whereas Daddy's Home, yeah, I mean, he sucks the lights into a snowblower.
Well,
you don't just really picture that playing out because it could never really happen the way that it does.
Right. Shall we take a look at it? Snowblower and lights.
Do you want to take us through this one?
Not really, but I'll do it.
Okay. I was just going to offer. You don't have to.
No, okay, you go for it. I'm worried it's going to be like Mad Max, where it's like so fast I can't even finish my sentences.
Oh, okay. This is Mad Max level comedy. So this is a scene where they're having a fight about different stuff, and there's nothing really set up about Will Ferrell in this moment or anything. Oh, goddamn, I didn't do it. All right, sorry. So, but we're going to have a snowblower accident. And the fun thing with Clark Griswold, I'll just point out, is we're setting up through all that like that he's a little bit of a buffoon. Like we set up with the ladder thing. Oh, he might be in way over his head. The not. Like you're just setting up all these things he's in over his head, whereas Will Ferrell, it's like he's just an idiot, as Mel Gibson's going to say at the end of this scene. So, let's watch it in 3, 2, click.
I brought you your hat!
Linda Cardellini's mad at him. He lets go of the snowblower. And there is like a lot of emotional stuff going on. Starts to suck in the lights, which is funny in and of itself. And I do find this stuff funny. And I was kind of laughing at the concept that he just can't let go of it. Snowman's getting decapitated by the lights. It's just ridiculous. They're chewing the lights up. They're whipping around like it's Star Wars or something. John Lithgow gets knocked down by the lights. Wahlberg jumps in and uses the shield as armor to protect Linda Cardellini getting blown away by light fragments. And Will Ferrell won't let go of it. Smashes into a wall. Dragged up the wall. Completely impossible things going on. And the snowblower keeps churning onto the roof, sucks up all the lights in the house, and we have a tag coming. Gets to his feet.
To the side of my car,
Aldrich's upset about the side of his car, and boom, the snowblower crushes the top of it.
It's funny.
And we're not done yet. We can hurt Will once more. Santa Claus.
Not so funny.
And then Mel Gibson's filming it, and the tag of that is the thing that I laughed at the hardest, was Mark Wahlberg's girlfriend coming out and saying, or his wife coming out and saying, why didn't he let go? Which I thought was the funniest part of the whole thing, because that's character. You know, that's character determining action. Where Will Ferrell just wouldn't let go of the handles is the whole reason that happened, but it happens at the end, and Mel Gibson says, because he's an idiot. And it's like, okay.
That's nice, actually. It also does one thing, if you as an audience member are on the fence about the scene, and say, well, why didn't he let go in the moment, where you like questioning the logic of the film? They're calling it out and making a joke out of it.
Yeah.
So they're owning it.
Yeah, and that's that grounding that makes it fun. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to be coming back to compare a couple more clips from these two films, maybe look at how they might be very, very similar after all in their use of special effects. And we sincerely hope that you've had a wonderful holiday and that it's going great and you get some time off and get to keep enjoying it. If you enjoy what you're hearing, let a friend know. Podcast makes a great holiday gift. Shit. Come back next week for the conclusion.
You might be surprised.
Yeah, we already know what it is. And thank you to Curtis for the music. And as Sven always says,
happy editing.
There's no sane zone, so put your head between the speakers. There's no sane zone, so put your head between the speakers.
Good God.